world is changing fast. New technologies are impacting how we think about products, services, and the way we live our lives. Nowhere is this trend more present than in financial services, where new business models and customer expectations are changing our conceptions about banking, finance, and the very nature of money. Welcome to Rebank, a visionary podcast about banking, fintech, and the future. The future of banking is here. Hello and welcome to Rebank. I'm your host, Will Beeson. Today we're very lucky to be joined by Sophie Guibaud, Head of European Expansion for Fidor Bank, one of Europe's original and best-known digital-only banks. Originally launched in Germany in 2009, Fidor expanded to the UK in 2015. Prior to joining Fidor, Sophie led product strategy and commercialization at Bankable, a white-label banking platform provider. Before that, she was Chief Marketing Officer at HelloFresh, a rocket internet-backed, ready-to-cook meal delivery startup. Sophie is regularly mentioned among top fintech influencers, appearing on the Innovate Finance Women in Fintech Powerlist, CityAM's Fintech Most Influential Powerlist, and its Women in Fintech Powerlist, to name just a few. As always, connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or on our website, www.bankingthefuture.com. If you enjoy today's show, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Overcast, Player.fm, or wherever else great podcasts are distributed. Thanks so much for listening today. Please welcome Sophie Guibaud. Sophie, welcome to Rebank.
Hi, Will.
Describe Fidor for those who don't know it.
Yeah, Fidor is an online bank based on the principles that we should put our clients at the center of the decision-making process. And we are doing so through a community bank that we have set up, a community where people can not only help each other around personal finance topics, but also help us and guide us around what the bank should launch next.
Mm-hmm. So it's retail only, or you do retail and business?
We do retail and business in Germany, and we do retail only in the UK.
Okay, so you're currently operating in Germany and the UK?
Absolutely. So this is the bank part. On the technology part, so it's Fidor Solutions, and we white label these services that we have developed across the world. So we have contracts a bit across the world, but we don't provide with the banking license to our partners.
Okay. How many customers are there on the Fidor tech side, the platform side?
On the platform side, I cannot say a definite number, but I can say that we have been announcing already O2 Banking that we have launched in Germany, Adib in the Middle East.
Matthias Kroner founded Fidor in 2009, I believe. What was the thought process behind starting Fidor? Why did Germany originally and now Europe need a new bank?
Yeah, sure. So Matthias actually started working on this concept back in 2006, 2007, during basically the financial crisis. And he thought like the market needed a new kind of bank that could be trusted. And he all started the concept based on the fact that people didn't trust bank anymore, but could trust each other in helping each other around personal finance. So it was also the time that Facebook arrived, and he saw a way for people to communicate easily around personal finance. So the concept really started from the crisis to build a bank in which people could trust because it's made by the people, and using the customers as co-managers, actually, treating them as co-managers and not as customers.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the community aspect, which clearly sounds different from other banks, but broadly speaking, what makes Fidor different than other banks?
Well, it's really putting the client at the center of the decision-making process. So I can give you a few examples, maybe in the UK, because it's what I've been in charge of over the past 2 years. So since the beginning, we have involved them in the decision-making process with, for example, the name of our debit card, the pricing of our debit card as well, which means that in the UK, as you know, it's very difficult to charge for cards, but in the retail world, it's actually a big cost for banks. And we have introduced a fee on ATMs. And this is something that has been discussed with our community members that were not very amused by that, but they actually have found a way to go around it in a way that is satisfactory for the bank as well as for them, which is actually to do cashback as the supermarket. They were like, okay, so from the fourth ATM you want to charge us, then what happens when we do cashback? And we're like, actually, please do that because it's really good for us. We don't have like to pay the ATM network for that, and you still can get your cash. And what happened next is that we told the customer service, and the customer service is telling other customers to do that. Yeah.
So in Germany, Fidor has a full banking license.
Yeah.
And in the UK, you leverage effectively the German banking license. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And in the German market, which sorts of products do you have?
So in the German market, we have very simple banking products. Since the beginning, we have focused on simple banking products and using partners to offer other banking products. This is the finance bay concept, the marketplace concept that we are seeing growing more and more across markets now, but this is something that we have done since the beginning. So we are providing with like a simple current account, saving bonds, SEPA transfers that are quite inexpensive, overdrafts, emergency loan, which are loans that you can get within 60 seconds based on the analysis of your data and behavior with payments. And for the rest, investments, more savings, crowdfunding, any kind of thing you can think of, like investment in currencies, precious metals, we use partners to do that. The idea is like we focus on what we do best and we let others that do things better to do it and to serve our clients, to provide with a one-stop shop banking platform for them.
Mm-hmm. And are you active in the UK with the same product set?
In the UK, we are active with a current account, with saving bonds, with SEPA transfers. We don't offer currently overdraft or emergency loan. We might do it in the future, but it's not set yet. Mm-hmm. And we have launched a few fintech partnerships. The ones that are known yet now are Nutmeg and Cedars.
Which are, for our audience, investment, effectively robo-advisory investment type companies.
Absolutely.
And Cedars is a equity crowdfunding platform?
Yes, exactly. So the idea for the bank as it is now is to really cherry pick the fintechs that we are offering to the clients, as the interface is an online bank and it makes it difficult to integrate too many offering. But in the future, the idea is to recommend the fintechs based on what the client is interested in and would like by leveraging data analysis.
It sounds like based on the products you guys offer and the kind of the partnership, the marketplace model for some of the other often more highly regulated products, you could have adopted a sort of e-money license or white labeled bank route as opposed to going the full banking license route, which can be more capital intensive, more costly, more time intensive. What drove Fidor to get a full banking license at launch?
I think like they wanted since the beginning to be able to have like as much flexibility as they could to operate. So I think like they went to the full banking license for that reason and to be able to do whatever they wanted. It enables us now to actually offer this full banking license to other partners such as telecom company, such as O2 or retailers without being stopped by the fact that we cannot do loan or we cannot do like offer any kind of specific financial product.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because it seems like at this point, given kind of the two parts of the business you described, the one that's kind of more checking / current account focused and savings deposit focused, and the one that's more build a bank as a platform and sell it on a white label basis to other customers, that you almost leverage the banking license more in that white label bank as a platform part of the business than on the kind of direct to consumer retail side of the business.
Well, the bank is kind of a showcase for the technology, to be fair, and it has become like that over the year because at the beginning the idea was not to leverage the technology and to sell it to retailers or telecoms. They built the technology because they needed the technology to be able to launch Fidor Bank, but they realized that there was more and more interest in the technology by other partners, so it's how it happened. So now the technology can also be used outside of the banking license, which is quite important to say. So, for example, Adib is not using our banking license. We don't have any banking license in Middle East, but it's true that we can leverage the banking license in Europe with telecom and retail partners. And you're absolutely right in saying that, yes, we are leveraging it fully.
I mean, long term, whereas both parts of the business seem very relevant and very interesting, arguably that white label bank as a platform business has much more significant growth potential given the movement we've seen toward APIs, toward new kind of technology, infrastructure, architecture being adopted, things like PSD2, open banking in the UK. I mean, that must be a very, very exciting business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to be fair, I joined Fidor because I saw that 2 years ago. I was working also in banking as a service platforms before, but more in the prepaid part. But I saw it coming because, like all these telecom and retailers, they are still growing, but their margin are being shrunk more and more, like especially in the telecom and retailer industry, and they are looking for new ways to actually monetize and use their audience. And this is just a natural way to do it, but they are not technology experts, so they need technology experts to be able to do it. And on the other side, us, like we keep on acquiring clients for Fidor Bank, but these guys are providing us with the audience, like much larger audience than what we can do by ourselves. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win partnership, really.
On the digital-only, call it challenger bank, startup bank side, there, especially in the UK, are a number of new banks coming to market. Atom, Tandem, Monzo, Starling. And similarly, in other countries, there are either SME, kind of sole trader-focused propositions, retail-focused propositions. That seems to be a part of Fidor's business, maybe not going forward the core necessarily. What's your view on that model, the kind of digital-only, mobile-only, automated, increasingly AI-based retail business model?
Well, I think like the model is interesting. Now the question is how you can monetize, and that becomes like a difficult answer to give. I think it also depends on the country. I think UK is a very difficult market because it's difficult to charge for a current account. It's difficult to charge for a card, where clearly the bank has a fixed cost, and historically, like the retail banks have been hiding behind the overdraft to finance all of that. And this is clearly not what the market wants, because the market wants trust and transparency, and this is also what those banks are trying to provide. So I believe this is something the market needs. I'm not sure that the market needs mobile-only banks yet, like maybe a fraction of the population, but not all of the population. But now, like the big answer is like, how do you monetize? How do you earn money? Because of course your costs are much lower because you are digital and you don't have branches and all that kind of thing. But it's not by giving up a service for free that you will win the market.
We talk about cost structures. I've actually been surprised by the headcount that a lot of the digital-only banks are carrying. So there are no branches and there's no sales force. But I mean, we're talking 100-plus employees, full-time employees that a lot of these banks are carrying even prior to launch, which seems hugely costly.
Yeah, well, at Fidor we are 50, so I think it also depends on the level of investment that you got, and we have been quite conscious over time to be careful to our funds and to be very lean in the way we recruit. I think any kind of startups need to be very lean in the way they recruit, and if what they think they need, well, fine, but I think you can be even leaner.
You talked about monetization. What's Fidor's monetization strategy?
Yeah, we have the very traditional part. as you know, so like deposits and loans, and make money out of that. We also have portfolio investments. So it's very traditional banking, and the most innovative one is clearly the marketplace. So revenue share, affiliation, through which is clearly a new revenue model that dates 2010 for us, but we believe will become bigger and bigger in the future as fintech sector has been growing exponentially since then, because at the beginning we didn't have that many partners to promote. Now in the future it's going to be different. So this is the second strategy on the retail. And the SME part, also because, for example, we are selling SumUp, which is the device to take card payments. We are selling insurance. We are selling basically out what SMEs needs to operate. So I would say it's more a marketplace model that we are heading towards than traditional banking.
Given that you guys do overdrafts, as you mentioned, and emergency loans, but it doesn't sound like there's a really kind of well-structured or built-out lending side of the business. How are you able to manage your balance sheet effectively, the deposits that you raise via the current accounts and the savings bonds versus the money that you're loaning out?
Well, like treasury and CFO department, right? But this is true that like when you are a bank, it needs to be incremental. You cannot, like, as opposed to neobanks where that sit on other banking license, where you can, like, the game is to acquire as many customers as you can. Like with Fidor, it's a bit different. You need to grow slowly to be able to absorb like the deposits and to give like loans away. Giving loans away is not that difficult, to be fair, like, because people always need money. Now it's about being smart in the way we do our scoring so that we are profitable and we accept the people that will repay back at a good pricing that is lower than the price we acquire. But also, like, raising bonds haven't been very difficult historically. And in a European perspective, like, we can really work on a matrix where, like, we acquire saving bonds or deposits at a low rate and give loans at a higher rate. So this is where we are heading towards.
So you're doing meaningful volumes when it comes to overdrafts and emergency loans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned the community before. I'd love to hear a bit more about that. I know that there's some fun stories like deposit rates being set as a function of a number of Facebook likes. What are some of the stories, the strategies around that community base, and how has that supported Fidor?
Well, the community has been set up 2 years before the launch of Fidor. So, like, it really is the start of Fidor, and it's kind of the proof of concept that there was a need on the market for it. So there is like a section where people can really help each other around personal finance. We reward them for that. The idea behind it is that people are helping each other, and it makes less call to customer service, so less cost for us. It also means that communities are available 24/7, which is not the case of customer service at the moment. But some fun stories maybe are around setting up the interest rates through the community. So it means that every time we increase or decrease interest rates for the saving bonds, we are actually discussing that in the community. And what we have seen is that the clients or the community members, they don't actually ask for 20% for return for one year, but they actually understand that the bank needs to earn money. And their behavior is that, okay, so like be transparent about your cost. We understand you need to make a buffer, and we are happy to actually pay this buffer to let the bank operate. So they are being very playful at looking at what are the best offers in the market and coming back to us after we make an offer so that we make an agreement. So it's really kind of a negotiation around that. And in the UK, when we launched, actually, like there was, we arrived with our interest rate and we got feedback, okay, that interest rate doesn't make any sense. And actually, you should also launch a 9-month saving bonds. And we carried out the discussion for 2 days, and 2 days later we had implemented the change. So this is quite cool because we show to the clients that every time we can implement something fast, we actually do it. We are very agile, and sometimes it takes more time because we need to develop it internally. And even if we are a tech company, we have bandwidth. Not problems, but challenges. But yeah, every time we can show to community members that we can go fast, we really strive at doing it.
Amazing. A company, a bank no less, that actually listens to customers and responds based on their requests and their needs.
That's the principle. After that, like, we apply it as often as we can.
Is there a distinction between your community and your customers? i.e., are all community members also customers?
No, absolutely not. So we have more than, like, I think last public numbers are 300,000 community members, and I think 120,000 banking clients. So the community is truly independent from the banking customers. That has been historically like that. The community is also a cheap acquisition channel for us, to be fair, because it's easier to acquire on communities than it is to on current accounts on Google, right? And over time, like, the goal is, of course, to convert our community members into banking clients. But when we launched, we thought it would be like the ratio would be 10-on-1, and now it's 3-on-1, and like, we are heading towards 2-on-1. So it's getting better and better.
That actually leads nicely into the next question I wanted to ask, which is around customer acquisition. We hear so much, especially in the UK, about customers not being open to new banks, great apathy when it comes to switching banks or opening new accounts. And many would suggest that that's one of the key challenges that new banks in the market will face. What's been Fidor's experience with customer acquisition?
Well, we haven't forced them to become primary, and I think is that the most important thing to keep in mind is that we are more like, okay, you try out through the community. Maybe now you want to try out a savings product, or you want to get like a secondary account for whatever. And then over time, we have seen that they were actually becoming primary account holders. So now in Germany, 50% of our clients are primary account holders. But it became over time. We are not like telling them you need to switch account now. We have a switching account service, but yeah, what we see is that actually, like, they are converting over time because they like the customer service, because they like the principle. But not all clients want to have an online only bank account. Sometimes, like, they want to talk to real people, and over time they get more confident, and they see they get support through all different channels, which can be Facebook, which can be Twitter, which can be the community, which can be customer service on the phone, really, and they become more confident.
Do you get requests or pressure from customers to launch new products? I don't know, if they're happy with the current account, do they want a mortgage from Fidor as well? And
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And we have recurring topics. Like, the most recurring one lately was, so we launched in the UK with an intermediary. We didn't have a direct agency banking relationship for more than 18 months after our launch, right? Because it took some time. It took actually much more time than what we thought, because we were a full bank and we thought it would be much faster. But okay, so they were really wanted individual bank accounts that we finally launched mid-December. And they are really happy about it. So now they are on their next topic, which is the mobile app. We have already a first mobile app, but they want like the full mobile app, and that's the next topic. And then there will be a next topic. But it's actually what we are asking, right? Like, we don't have infinite funds to launch everything at the same time. So, like, the more vocal they are in the community about something, like, the more likely it will be that we will launch it fast. So,
So on the license passporting model, is it relatively easy to enter new countries within the EU?
Yeah.
And do you have a rollout roadmap for additional countries of operation?
It's super easy to launch. It's just a notification. It's like literally 2 pages to fill out and to send to the local regulator, and then a notification to the other regulator. It's like, all in all, it's like a 3-month process max. So it's very, very easy. Do we have a roadmap for other countries? Yes, we do. It's not public yet, but the idea is to clearly see market gaps in the retail as well as SME sectors, and see where Fidor can add value in which markets. So,
would you expect within the next 2 years to be live in additional countries?
Absolutely.
How has Fidor funded itself so far?
Initially, it has been about raising funds, really, across VC as well as bigger investment funds. And now, we have been acquired by BPC, so BPC.
You mentioned that acquisition. That was announced in July of 2016, I believe, and it was to be closed, subject to regulatory approval, I guess, in all countries. Has that formally closed?
Yes, absolutely. It happened in 2016. So formally closed, acquisition is over now.
And what are the implications of that acquisition on Fidor?
Well, I cannot comment very much on it as it is very strategic. But yes, it will clearly support us in our growth across Europe and beyond.
Mm-hmm. But you're still able to drive toward the same long-term vision that you initially intended to, and
absolutely, both parties are very much aligned on what's the story of Fidor and where we are heading towards being a European based online bank on the bank side, and then a global tech provider in the banking sector across the world on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I won't ask for comment from you, but it's not surprising that an incumbent bank might find a company with such well-built for purpose banking kind of back-end architecture interesting, especially if they've got decades-old legacy systems. I could easily see why a new modern banking platform might be interesting. I'd imagine you could support not only your new owners but a number of incumbent banks with that sort of platform.
Absolutely,
very interesting. What's Fidor's longer-term vision?
Become a global bank that it's putting the customer at the center of our decision-making process, community banking, and helping our customers to get more money together. Basically, this is the motto, it's together more money. So it's really being by the side of the customers to help them manage better their finances. So this is on the Fidor Bank part. On the solution part, so on the technology part, it's helping other banks to do the same.
No, it's interesting, the point around helping customers effectively grow their wealth. And it's not surprising that a bank should have that as its mission. Arguably, a lot of the multinational incumbent banks erode more value for customers than they actually add. What does Fidor do to make that a reality? Is it supporting the community forums? Is it helping people share financial advice with each other? Is it, I don't know, personal financial managers? Is it what is it tangibly?
So it is the community clearly where people can share advice, and we have other plans in that topic, but I cannot share too much at this stage. But it's going to be all digital and quite automatized.
I look forward to that. You've had a few years to observe real operational results, having launched in 2009. How do customers use Fidor in practice? Maybe kind of specific to Germany, where you guys have been active longer.
Well, we have a lot of saving customers because we have good savings opportunities. And at the beginning, it was about trying out. What we see actually also launching in the UK is that we see clients sending £5 to see if the money arrives and if everything works well. But over time, they use it as a real current account, and also as a way to get funds. Emergency loans not only help young people, but what we have seen a bit sadly, but we are supporting them, is a lot of retirees using the emergency loan to make it before they get their pension, for the past the last few days of the month.
You mentioned the technology and how your technology is very much a differentiating factor for you guys. To the extent that it's an area of expertise of yours, what can you tell us about the way the technology was designed? Was it all built in-house? Do you continue to maintain it, develop it yourselves? Yeah,
so we decided that there was no need to build a core banking system. that was the principle. Like we saw it as like commodity as opposed to like a very strategic element. So we have built since the beginning a middleware made of APIs able to communicate with this core banking system and be able to build platforms in a very agile way, whether it's web or app. So the vision was really to take this core banking system and to be able to communicate with it and be able to build whatever solution. So it has always been APIs based. Like this vision has been there since 2010, and like we are more than happy to see that with PSD2 and stuff, like it's where the marketing is heading towards.
Are you able to say who the core banking system is provided by?
Yes, but like a German one, so it's called G&H.
Presumably the technology is built in such a way that if one day you wanted to change core banking system provider, it would be relatively easy to do so.
Absolutely. Like we've like some of the clients I have been mentioning, the white label one, we are not using our core banking system. It doesn't matter. The middleware is built. So after that, it's just connected the middleware to the other core banking system. But it's really agnostic of that. And it should be, to be fair, because core banking system are very different from one client to another, and if you don't do that, then you're not able to provide to the client with a flexible infrastructure and solution.
Tell us about the Telefonica project. That sounds hugely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, O2 wanted to launch banking in Germany, and so we have built for them an app, mobile banking app that they are selling to their clients. So it's like a free banking. And what is very different is that the more they use their card, the more they get free internet data across the month. So instead of the bonus program that we have, they give free data. So it's like there is benefit for the clients, and it helps them O2 build a loyal customer base. So O2 provides with the customer base, and we service the banking. So we have been doing the technology, but we also operate the customer service, we operate the marketing, we operate everything behind the banking license, the compliance, the legal, everything.
And presumably it's an interesting source of deposits as well for Fidor, essentially.
Absolutely. Deposits and loans as well, because there is overdraft and emergency loan with Telefonica.
You're UK-based, and you've been working for a couple of years, I guess, on your UK activities. Will the UK leaving the EU have any impact on Fidor's future here?
No, because we are passported. So we will see what happens in the future, but we are not thinking much about it at the moment. Like we are too much of a small team to have like a lobbyist taking care of it and see what happens. Like the UK is a very interesting market, like very digital people. It's a market where we want to stay in and we want to grow. Then we will make the necessary adjustment when we have a clear light on what needs to be done to stay in the UK.
Well, it's a very fair answer, and unfortunately, no one's making it particularly easy on businesses at the moment to figure out what they should be doing.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a debacle. How can people find out more about Fidor and connect with you directly?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go on fidorbank.uk, which is our UK website. They can go on fidor.com, which is the technology website. So they can see more about what we do in white label and API based on the different segments. And they can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, on like any kind of platform. Really, it's easy to find.
Right. Sophie Guibaud, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks for tuning into Rebank. If you like today's show, reach out. Follow us on Twitter at Rebank Podcast and join the conversation. For more on banking, fintech, and the future, check out our regular content at www.bankingthefuture.com.